my star sign is Aquarius, so I'm related to the ocean. And if I go away, I dry out too much. So with surfing, it's a point of, it's hard to sort of to step away from, because it's an individual, what everybody sort of gets out of it, and such an enjoyment. So many people can enjoy the whole thing of it. From the early times, I used to come to the coast with my parents, and then finally got a 9-foot plus log. No brand, it was just all painted over.
I hear you had a big fin.
A big area fin, yeah. But used to catch waves.
15. How did you turn it?
You didn't, you just went straight to the beach.
Oh, okay, right. So you're pretty safe. Long
Oh, yeah.
Look, mate, I hear your parents drove you all the way from Toogoolawah. A lot of people don't know where that is, mate. And I hear you told McTavish. It's 70 miles west of Nambour.
It's out in the Brisbane Valley, sort of out near Somerset Dam area, in that location. We used to come through Beerwah over to the coast. And then from there we'd have the weekend and then return back out to there. And until I got my licence and my own car, I had my transport, so I had my board, had my car, and it was able sort of to get, had independence to sort of get back to the beach and enjoy it.
Yeah, now, there's some stage you were working with the PMG, which we now call the Post Office.
Yep.
And based in Nambour, and you got to get the surf the coast a bit without mum and dad driving you. It
was an area of Telegram Boy, and then I was transferred after 2 years from Toogoolawah over to in the Nambour district, which enabled me to sort of to communicate with the ocean and also converse with a lot of different people on the coast. From the format of surfing wise, by living in the area, it was a lot more closer than coming from Toogoolawah, because it was a marathon in that time frame. But on the coast, it was nice and handy. The only hard point was Nango was in the Nambour district, but the time to get down to the coast, I was limited just for a one-day session. So it was good to be able to sort of get back onto the coast and enjoy everything again. It was good communicating with surfers from other areas, because sort of not only sort of watching them of what they were sort of using their equipment on, but also their knowledge and areas and different waves they were surfing. And then I finally sort of moved back up to the coast here, in the Central Coast, Maroochydore area, and then sort of started bases from there. It was a area of the only raffle over one, so to sort of come in that format, I did 6 months rookie training at Singleton, core training at Singleton, then transferred to 6RA in Brisbane, to where they were rebuilding the guys from coming back from Nam. But my 2 years was sort of taken up and through there. But in that 2-year time frame, I had the availability to be able to drive a truck in the service. So my detour signs used to be down Worsley's Bishop Street, but the traffic was very bad around the place. So it enabled me to sort of to call in going out and call in coming back. Yeah, I took a trip when I left the coast, 11 months to get from here to Adelaide. So it was just stop-start. If I liked a place, I'd continue on. I'd stay for a period of time, but if it didn't go down for the day, I'd move on, or weather conditions. But it was a good surfing time where you could go to places. You didn't have to read a number of signs to sort of what you could and couldn't do. And now those days you could park anywhere. But the way things are now, because a lot more people communicating around the coast, it got that way of to be able to sort of go to places and stay and enjoy. So at the time, Rod Tees was shaping there, and then it was interesting because being an individual, I've always sort of had things through my head and like to sort of create through your hands, which is hard for anybody. But shaping was a really creative thing. Earlier shaping I did up here before I started that trip, and then I was shaping for a chap, Atlas, in Melbourne. Then I proceeded over to John Arnold with Wayne Dale when the Wayne Lynch involvement models were sort of being exported to the US. In September '69, I got a phone call. I had to return back because I had a weekend to go to Cactus for the weekend, but circumstances, I come back to Queensland and then started the next section of my life. Right. Greg finally, that was an area, his symbol of his trading emblem was an Indian head. And then from there, I went to was on a weekend thing of that, back into Woozos, and then from the next stage after that, sort of went over to Ken's, and then Ken, over a period of time, had purchased San Juan down at Byron Bay. In that time frame, Ronnie Woodward was working down there, so after the '69 return back into here, I was freelance and shaping sort of in different areas, but Ken, who had owned San Juan, Ronnie was going to Sydney for a exercise of a private matter. So he said, if you want to stay at my house, which is a Broken Head, and then we had prior to going there, we had a northeaster for 3 days, and then the first morning we rocked up on the morning he took off. There was a sou'wester come through, and it was just circles of waves sort of coming off the point. Yeah, it was. And in that time frame, there was very few surfers around at the time as well. So it was an experience to enjoy, but also participate in the progression and the industry in different sections of it.
In your time working with Atlas, you bumped into Faye?
Yeah. When I'd come back, my work program, I'd leave here Monday night to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because I was bad enough doing 3 days in Brisbane, let alone 5 days. So I cut it down to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we go down the coast for 3 days, come back, do Brisbane 3 days, and back up here for 3 days. So it was a bunny hop over that period of time. I'd come home, then Faye was working in Budrum, and I'd come home, she'd be working, and I'd go to Brisbane, she'd have time off. So I said, okay, how about terminate that, come down, I introduced her to pen lining and fiberglassing, to finish coating, the glossing of the board. So it was participation of where we were both associated with it. And then we accumulated knowledge from the surfing industry through shaping, and then I moved into glassing to incorporate it with my interests. And then she incorporated her knowledge of pen lining and glossing as well.
Now this Faye lady in your life sort of put a bit of an anchor on you.
It's like
I see stories of mortgages and houses, and then all of a sudden, in that time, that early 70s, 74, 75, you started those Purcell designs, and it just seemed to take off, boom, which linked with the shortboard.
In that area, it sort of was like a good transition for, say, from at the time I was working in Brisbane and I was doing some weekend shapes for H up here, and then sort of closer to that of reviewing of travelling to Brisbane all the time, I approached Ken Goodenswagger of Ken Custom Surfboards, and about putting a store on the coast. And he said, well, if you get up there, you're just going to sit on your bum, do nothing, and go surfing all day. And I said, no, I was willing to sort of make something of it. He didn't want to follow through, so I finished up a week before Christmas, got some materials, 7 blanks, roller glass and some resin, and I started, because I was working with H on at shaping up here, he made the availability for me to start my section of LPD. And then in '74 is when the LPD sort of started to fire up.
So there's that brings you up to where you're shaping at Hayden's before you started your own shop. So can you tell me just a little bit more about that era and how you broke out from there?
Yeah, it was a thing because of the creation of boards. It was one of the extensions of the surfing industry, and watching surfers sort of progress on the coast. They were looking for new innovations and stuff, but with progression, you've got to watch you don't take them too far too quickly, because they can't understand. And being surfing is such an individual thing of people's approach to waves, selection of waves, attitudes on waves, person's physique for it. So there was a lot of flexibility to incorporate particular design of boards for the surfers.
Was there any particular design that you were heading towards, or innovations or anything like that?
Mainly with our waves sort of being not as productive and stronger as in some areas of the eastern seaboard, you had to sort of consider what you had so the surfer could get the maximum out of his equipment. And the design of the boards were just small, fun surface area boards to be able to sort of cater for the lacking of power. But then when the swell increases, there's a whole different concept of equipment required.
And so with working at the Hayden factory, did you find that you reached a point where it's like, I've got to expand here, I've got to do my own thing?
It was the transition come into that to where Hayden was relocating his production line, and so I moved out to Petrie Creek Road with Kent Manning was out there at the time, and because Kent was going overseas on a personal matter, so I spent some time out there. The communication from the shop out to there was only 5 minutes to the river mouth at Marucci, but then another 5 minutes out. I get out there and Face says, "Oh, can you come back? Someone wants you at the shop." So it got that way. I reviewed it to relocating back into Wises Road, Maroochydore, my factory, and able to stay close to the factory, and also with customers, they could touch base with me down the factory or at the shop.
So your shop is now, you've set up shop down sort of the end of Alex Parade and Aerodrome Road.
Correct, yeah, the
Yeah.
big end of Aerodrome Road.
Yeah, it's a big
It-
2-story blue building that we all remember very clearly.
Yeah, it was the original one was sort of right in at the next to the Shell Garage, which used to be at the corner of Aerodrome Road, Marucci, and then there was a development site sort of moved in. My landlord, who I didn't know had property up for sale, incorporating a rear property, so it was a time for me to do another transmission move. And next door was a 2-story ex-travel agency place, but it was soon turned into a surf shop, and was quite feasible for the exercise from the factory and to the retail premises.
Probably what, less than 5 minutes?
Yeah, it was handy because the early days, the way the shop was, you could just go to the beach, have sand on you, come and sit on the floor. It didn't matter because you'd just get the broom, sweep under the boards, and away you go again, because it was all part of the environment of a relaxed lifestyle of the surfing industry.
And what year was that, do you think, that you moved into that one?
That was in approximately 74, 76. Sort of moved into that area. And then from there, it was just sort of slowly growing, and then I increased from boards and incorporated other surfing products of wave skis, knee boards, sailboards, and then I had because my time was getting taken up so much, my business was increasing. It got that hard to start to get some time for myself. Of the area of people I selected, because I wanted them as ambassadors on behalf of me to be in the water, and it was great of participating in sort of their progression in the sport, because they'd come in and say, "This is what I've been riding, what can I move into?" So from the overall concept of it, I went from the basic surfer, intermediate, upmarket, high performance and high tech. And it was good because it was expanding my mind, expanding information, what I was gaining to sort of pass on to other surfers. And that's what I enjoyed from what I get out of it, was to pass on to other people as well.
So 2 things, you had the factory going, you had the shop going. So out at the factory, we'll go to the shop in a minute.
Yep.
You know, I worked out there for a while. You taught me how to spray surfboards, which was a great thing that I gained from you for sure. I took it on to other work as well. But you had Cookie working out there, Graham Cook.
Correct.
You had Earl Pedersen.
Yep.
For a while out there, and yourself shaping. Were there any other shapers that worked out there?
There was Stumpy Wallace. Had some contract shaping on the outside, because to have the number of people and the size of my factory, I had outside shapers sort of shaping boards, and I'd go and collect them and bring them in, because the way the business was growing, my time was starting to get limited to be spent in the shaping room, but I still had hands-on when I'd come to assisting sponsored people to progress in their sport. Another shapers was Earl Pedersen, you just mentioned. He was one really creative surfer. I haven't seen anybody else.
He did like channels and
the bottom shape of his board. To look at the board front on was just standard, but once you turned it over, it was like a spider bottom of the board itself. And from his shaping, he didn't have enough time to stand there and watch it, because he just had a time frame of what he used to have it in his head, produce it through his hands, and in that area from when he'd finished, He'd give it a glasser, which was a nightmare. The sander was a nightmare. And the finish coater was a nightmare because he wanted it reproduced. How he shaped it with his hands. He didn't want too much resin glass anywhere. Didn't want no sand throughs, no damage to all the craft and
What
he
was the
had.
feedback you got on the boards?
Beg your pardon?
The feedback you got from his boards. Did you surf them?
He did one for me, and I regret it to this day of letting it go. I got some information about 12 months ago where it showed up on the scene, but by the time I got to the
I
person,
saw one yesterday on a for sale site.
yeah,
You'll have to have a look.
Oh.
It wasn't a Les for sale one though. It was from, I can't remember.
yeah, Earl did it up for me, and it was really experienced to ride because the design of what he incorporated in that board, even the shapes and the what I had done on my own boards. I used to have a format of today's creation is tomorrow's beast, which allowed you to sort of keep thinking ahead and progressing. And I had a surfer come in one time and said, I've got the perfect board. I said, well, you know where to go, mate, because of you're limited to sort of go open your interest into surfing. But on Earl's board, it was an experience I'd never forget as far as riding to the shapes, what I was doing. But then it was an individual sort of thing of his ideas, my ideas, and everybody, all the other creative shapers as well, put their ideas in to cater for the varying individuals of surfers because that's where the individual of shaping come into it, where now it's become so commercialised and the whole format's changed around a lot.
Yeah, that's stock boards now.
Yeah, sausages, I call
them. Just one before we go off that board that you had of Earl's.
Yep.
What made it different? What was so different about that particular board to surf? How did it feel?
With boards, you got to watch with the surface contact of the board with the water and the amount of air that was introduced underneath that surface. It felt like you were on just a pocket of air, much rather than of two surfaces of a rail-to-rail transition on your surfing. But in his board, didn't matter whether you're on your rail, on your flat, down the line, stalling, or what it was. It was just you were elevated, like sitting on an airbag all the time. And it was still in the water, but it was on the water. And the feeling of it, it's one of those hard to describe.
So let's move back to the shop.
Yep.
And this is my era where I come into the sort of very late 70s and into the early 80s when I had a lot to do with you and Faye and working at the factory and working in the shop, and you sponsored me and helped me with my competitive surfing. And then there was the Nixons as well, Connie and Danny, and I think Stephen.
Steve came in for a little while, but he wasn't as sort of strong. He was a little bit more on the outside. But Connie and Danny and the crew and along with you, it was such an enjoyment to have you associated with me because with guys they have a little bit more of a different approach. They just want to go out and have a good time on someone else's expense. But with Connie and yourself, it was such a good relationship what we had in the assistance to you to enjoy your sport. And
it was. I know it was a very close. We were all
it was like a family
for a while.
Yeah,
and it was a really nice thing to be a part of.
It was.
And Connie took it to the top level with winning a world title. So back to the time that you were sponsoring Connie and myself and Danny. And Connie, we were going into Connie winning the world title. What was the sort of relationship you had with her as a shaper and a board sponsor?
Connie was a very aggressive young lady in the surfing, in the waves and also on the land, because it got that way to where she started to sort of come in, this is what I want to do with my equipment. So from what she had, it was like I had raised the bar level to incorporate into her board to enable her to sort of to reach a higher standard, what she was aiming for to achieve. And that format also, through everybody, it was from other sponsored people I had as well, by having such a cross-section, the challenge from the individuals coming back to me with Connie also, it was just a real satisfaction to myself to produce something. But it was like raising my bar level. As I mentioned, today's creation of a board and then is a beast tomorrow. And that's where the progression just keeps pushing you and pushing you. And then when someone comes in and says, this is what I've had, what can I move into?
Mm. Yeah, that was a very successful partnership. And with that, you and Faye were very involved in Queensland Women's Surf Riding Association and Australian Women's Surf Riding Association. You really supported the women in general, not just Connie and myself. You're really behind it. What did you see as a valuable part of being involved in women's?
I enjoyed,
especially just in the 80s. Not a lot of companies were putting their money where their mouth was.
Correct. Yeah. It was a thing which I like to see everybody in the water enjoying the sport, irrespective of male or female. And since over a period of time, where surfers was mentioned before, their lifestyle had changed from their freestyle surfing into family life, and there's been a lot of surfers sort of come back into enjoy what they had. It's just there's been a lot more people sort of come on and joined into the surf scene as well, and it's become a little bit more crowded, but at least they're sort of back out in the water and enjoy it, because on the land there's a lot of changes, but when you face the ocean, the waves are there, you can just go out and enjoy it, that particular format.
And so with the women, you just
with women,
it was valuable.
yeah, it was. I think I looked at the picture. There was quite a few other sponsors doing the male side of it, assist the women's side of it to come up to where the boys were and give them a run for their money.
No, you helped give us a step up, that's for sure. So also in the shop, as you have said before, you had sailboarders, and you had some very highly skilled sailboarders.
Correct.
With you, Kevin Johnson,
Laurie,
Mitchell Laurie,
yeah, and Alec Porter, yes.
Yeah. So that was driving you in terms of design as well.
It was, and also with in the wave skis, was Bill and Karen Campbell. They went to the world title in Hawaii. I went over with them at the time. So from surfing, board range was from Malibus down to short boards, as well as competitive surfers. From wave skis, there was a lot of production skis of. But hand shape there wasn't too much in that, which was another creative. And then the sailboard side, Kevin Johnson was a competitive sailor as well as a free sailor from wave sailing, slalom sailing, and also race sailing. Gastra was his main sponsor, which I carried in the store with my wave sailors. But with the board equipment and with most boards, I used to enjoy having the person sort of my sponsor or who was really involved with the board in the shaping room, so they could have a full understanding of what I was putting into the board. So when they took it for surf, they had a more understanding of when they stand on it, what it was going to do, much rather than, I'll try to write it like my old one, it doesn't work. So on that format was the individual person part, which I enjoyed passing on to them so they could enjoy what they had, like driving a car. It's where you've been, where you are, it's where I'm going.
So there weren't a lot of surf shops on the coast that covered that variety, as you said, and there was knee boards as well. And so a whole range of surfboards, the skis, the paddle, what did they call again?
Yeah, the wave skis.
The wave skis and the windsurfers. Yes, so you had the whole gamut of surfcraft, watercraft.
Yes.
In your shop.
With the in that sort of format, there was very few manufacturers, quite a few retailers, as you just mentioned. And the manufacturers, and for myself, because I covered such a wide range, I was a bit of a thorn in the other people's sides, as far as because I had a lot more knowledge. If a person come in with a problem, I could sit down and discuss it with him, where other retailers, they were limited with information to be able to pass on. And even nowadays, I go into a shop occasionally, I start asking questions to someone, and the response I get, I better go and get someone else. So to be able to sort of help me with information when I'm asking about a particular product.
So that was early to mid 80s.
Correct.
From there,
the progression of surfing on the coast, there was a lot more competition sort of coming into it through the three types of categories I was producing, and also allowed a lot more expansion through the board side of it. For people to get back out into the water, where if previously, if they from the 60s to 70s, they got caught up through a lifestyle and they come back into the 80s and then into the 90s, and it was just a an increase of where people think, oh, I might pick that up and go for surf and then start enjoying what other people are doing. So, but the biggest hassle was with people of how much spare time they got because people's lifestyles were changing. It limited their time to be able to sort of spend. So, which reprogrammed my head if a person was looking for board.
You were sort of a little bit ahead of the time in the renaissance of the longboard.
Yeah.
So before a lot of people realised, oh, it's fashionable.
Yeah, and even with the there was an in-between board, like what they call a little hot dog board, and I got named the sausage maker because they were just a little version of a longboard cut down into a shorter board, but they were just enjoyment of in between. If a person's unable to ride a short board, longboard was too uncomfortable, but this happy medium in between. So that was where the flexibility sort of come in. And then when people's times were getting absorbed up so much, I sort of give them a little bit of analysis of how much time do you have to surf, because I didn't want to give them something too much, because surfing is either fun or frustration. If you're getting frustration, you haven't got the right equipment. And if you've got the fun, you're having a ball.
We haven't talked much about your surfing. We've talked about you in surfboard shaping and business. What about your surfing? What did that mean to you, and where did you take that?
When I made my own boards, I enjoyed it as I knew what the board would do. I want to know what it won't do. And that was where it sort of kept me open for tomorrow to be able to sort of keep on improving that. The equipment, what I did myself, I always did a little bit more of a upmarket thing, because the standard of what I was doing, I was catering for that wide range of people I was catering for, of this is who I am, where can I help you? And that was the part I really enjoyed, because being individuals of people's times, to be able to get back out into the water. But for myself, what the question you asked, the hardest thing was getting time to enjoy what other people are doing, because I spend more time putting other people out. And then that was the thing with sponsored surfers. By the time I sort of get through one, first person to come back say, hey, I've had this, the last one's got theirs, how about me? So it was like, what about me? But in the format, I enjoyed the whole progression of surfing in that. For myself, I enjoy different waves. I take it what they are, much rather than to do an analysis of yourself, see what your equipment can and can't do, but also look at the big picture. If you think you might have a bad day, the waves mightn't be doing it what they did yesterday was good quality waves. The next day is not quite a higher standard. And then different areas, I enjoyed locations up and down the coast. There's a lot of places I've sort of covered in the eastern seaboard, and often flash back to the time probably. There's some areas which you get to sort of know playing in the water and following weather conditions.
So your own surfing, Les, what did it mean to you, and also competitive history. What did surfing mean to you, and what did you do in your competitive surfing?
That is sort of right in the memory bank on that one. It was an area of different competitions and different stages of competing against other higher standard surfers, where it was a lot more professional for those guys, consistency. On the format of one event, I'll never forget, it was down at the Gold Coast. I had Michael Peterson, PT, Graham Black, Wayne Dean, and myself, and it was like having a game of tennis with Roger Federer. It was a loaded heat. So I thought, okay, well, at least I'll get one place, I'll get last. So it was somewhere to sort of to compete against a high standard of surfers and an enjoyment at the time. But at each competition, as yourself, when you go through, it's just, you got a time frame to decisions to make of what you can do with your equipment, and also the type of way that you're going to select to be able to sort of go through to your next part of the event that you're competing in. In the areas, there was some local events. I had one down in Victoria that I did a title down in through there. It was the same thing again. I finished up 6 on that, but there's a lot of other standards of surfers, and the bar was getting raised up with everybody because you're either first or you're last. So if I couldn't get the first, I went for the last. And for that,
I think some sports psychologists would be studying that and see what went wrong there. But anyway, so wrapping up your shop, when did you? There was a time when you closed your shop.
Yep.
So when was that, and what came about there?
That was in '94. The transition, I discussed it with Faye, and I sort of said, okay, the period of time, what we did prior to sort of having the business in that area, and then the length of time what we did it, and I could see where computerizers were sort of coming into it, where from what I'd come through a lot of the grassroots with a lot of other experienced shapers around, there was quite a large transition change coming into it, where people were sort of looking for an alternative much rather than a handcrafted product, which is very labour intensive. The shaping time for a shortboard was 4 to 5 hours. Computer, you're looking around 20 to 30 minutes. So cost-wise, labour-intensive. A longboard, and then you get into sailboards and stuff. It was just escalated up further up the track.
So technology was making.
Correct. Yeah, and I think okay. You couldn't just raise your bar level in your business up to a small degree. You had to sort of go up. So for the 20 odd plus years I had sort of through that, did we have the energy to raise that bar level? Financial, you had to sort of look at the big picture to be able to do it. The competitive side was going a lot more commercial wise. So I looked at sort of just restructuring around to finish the shop up, and one of my employees took over from my retail premises and carried on for a period of time after that, which I introduced a company called Bad Company under the Purcell design, and then in that time frame he carried on that name, and the Purcell sort of just slid away, and the Bad Company sort of moved on with my other staff member. But it was a area, I don't regret it because I didn't want to sort of lose what I gained out of it with the knowledge and the time frame. And if I'd have gone any further, I felt I may have sort of gone backwards because the energy what was required sort of take it up to the next higher level in that format.
Yeah, and then you went fishing.
Fishing, yes, yes. I had the opportunity, a person in front of me, to go into the fishing side of it, and they said, "I'll give you a week's trial to see how it is, if you like it." Well, playing on the water was an experience, but working on the water, it just raised my bar level as far as respect for the ocean, and it was an interesting challenge as well. Then the person had offered me a partnership, which we continued for an 8-year period. And other fishermen had commented, "When are you going to get your own boat? You get your own licence, Lev." But it was like a long apprenticeship, but I learned a lot out of that period of time. The ocean was a continuation of nature, which I enjoy. And when I went to the working on the ocean, when you're on land, you're confronted by other elements of everybody else. But when you're out in the ocean, you're by yourself. And it's such 2 days are never the same out there. And the elements of what you enjoy, if you look at it deeply, you can't describe it because it's such a personal thing to take part in. And then on the fishing side, from that, the partnership was dissolved. I come down here and purchased
Just
my
one thing in your first few sentences of the first interview we did this morning. You talked about that relationship with the ocean.
Yep.
And living in Brisbane and to Goolwa.
Yep.
How it grabbed you up. And you even then in your semi-retirement, you're still talking about exactly the same thing.
Yeah, well, even as I mentioned, my star sign is Aquarian. When I was in the army, we had a trip through Western Queensland, and when I went out there, I felt I was drying out. I had to get back to the beach. There was no moisture out there as far as for I'm used to the ocean. So from that, when it sort of moved into the fishing, I knew I'd enjoy it because it was just an extension of what I was doing for people to put them in the water to play. I'd go out in the ocean and be associated on the commercial side of it. There was a transition through the fishing industry, which we had to sort of readjust to the way it was introduced early, and it's been streamlined down into a quota fishery now, so there's a lot more control over it. There's less pressure on the fishery, and there's a lot better environment for everybody. But there's a couple of really special times. It was a glassy day I had out there. It was like a mirror, blue sky, blue ocean, no one around, and I spotted this object in the distance. So I moved over slowly, closer to it, and it was a bird just standing on a thong.
On a thong. Wow. Yeah, beautiful memories.
So special.
Mm.
And the dolphins used to sort of hang around your boat as well. And then I had two albatrosses one day because they require a lot of wind to sort of keep them going. And when there's not much wind, they just sit on the water, same as gannet birds.
Yeah.
They just sit around in a fleet, but when there's wind, they just go off hunting, looking for the food for the day. But at times you can't compare or take again. And at that time, I didn't have a camera, but it's all up here.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the mind's eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Special times. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful, Liz.
But and then from spending that much time on the water, it was getting that way. My age was starting to sneak up. My head was saying, yeah, but your body saying, hey, be careful here. Have a look at the big picture, because no one likes doing house calls out in the ocean. So I got that way where I restructured around, and for a short time of transitioning from my boat, I worked on a bigger boat, and I thought, hey, this is not right. I'm raising the bar level again. So I only did a short period of time on that. And I said to the factory that I was supplying product to that I wish to still be associated with the industry, because I enjoy of what the industry is about. I still have quota in the fishery, and I still got me skipper's ticket to work in the fishery. But the same thing, head says yeah, and your body says, hey, be careful. So at the moment, I've been doing logistics associated with the seafood company I've been associated with for quite a period of time. And I enjoy being on the road, still associated with the industry. Biggest hassle what I find is finding some spare time to sneak a surf in, because when the surf's good, I'm on the road delivering product.
Yeah.
And when the ocean's untidy, all the boats are in. So and it's not suitable, but not as enjoyment it is when it's a nice day to go for a surf.
Sure.
And the number of times can you do a run to Bris? Yeah, okay.
No, surfing.
Yeah, and being sort of close locality to the distribution point, only a stone's throw down the road, and then it's not like you got to travel a distance to get there. Oh, can you drop one down? But in the overall, from the surfing industry to the fishing industry, it's been such an enjoyment to be associated with nature, with the environment, and the weather conditions. It's why a chap rang up recently in the weather, and he said, "Are we going to get a bit of activity from these couple of lows around?" I says, "Well, at the moment they're just social distancing, like the new rules we've got to abide by." I says, "They'll just sit out there and blow for a while and then take off somewhere else." But it's just doing still analysis sort of with weather, and by the location where that I live, I can keep an eye on the ocean, and it's handy to still incorporate part of my lifestyle and my being an aquarian.
Yeah, that basically says it all, being in an aquarium.